Ron Paul.
I heard there was going to be a party in Richmond. I decided to come. You know, I like the fact that you include the word patriot with this Tea Party convention. That to me is great. Somebody asked me the other day in the media, and they said, what does patriotism mean? What is a patriot? I said, a patriot is an individual who is willing to stand up against one's own government when the government is wrong. Unfortunately, these days that's quite frequent. Maybe that's why we have so many people in the Tea Party movement. No, but you deserve congratulations. This is a grand meeting we're having here today, and also the movement is fantastic. A few years ago, during the presidential campaign, there were a few who coined the term of revolution. And indeed, I endorse the idea of revolution. I endorse the idea of an intellectual revolution. And that's, to me, very important. So the intellectuals who have given us this mess that we have today have to be challenged on the issues themselves. For instance, the economic system that we're suffering from is not free markets. It's Keynesian intervention, inflationism.
Yes, that's right!
Federal Reserve.
Say that, Dr. Paul!
One thing with certainty, I am convinced that the government people get is the government they deserve. You say, oh no, that's not fair. We've been complaining for a lot of years and look at what we've had. But when the general sentiment, when the majority of the people change their sentiment, governments will change. Now for too long, we the people have been too complacent. For too long, the Congress especially have been complacent and given up all its responsibilities and prerogatives in allowing the executive branch and the judicial system to run roughshod over us. Today, though, I am convinced the people are waking up and they said enough is enough.
Yes!
So it is very important what we believe in, and I believe we come together with many, many beliefs that we agree with. I'm sure there are a few that there might be some disagreements on, but I believe we can agree on the fact that the government we have in Washington, D.C. is too big.
Yes! Yes! Say that! Dr. Paul, you're right!
And you can hardly solve the problem of a government too big by making it bigger. That makes no sense whatsoever. You know, we're in this economic crisis because we spent too much money we didn't have. We borrowed too much money, we regulated too much, and we printed too much. So the predictable crisis arrives. Austrian free market economists predicted for years. We have a bubble out there. There's a housing bubble. There's a NASDAQ bubble. And something bad is coming. And when it comes, what do the people in charge say? Do they come to the economists who made all the correct predictions and said it was coming and understood what was wrong? Do they come to them and ask them what to do? No. What they do is they spend more money, they borrow more money, they print more money, and they come up with more regulations, and they think it's going to help. I say we need to do the opposite.
That's right.
The opposite means that we have to start from scratch. We have to start from scratch in deciding what the role of our government should be. The founders went through that. They didn't like the role of the government under the king. They said the role of government should be different. The role of government ought to be there to protect our liberties. The role of government ought to be there to provide a strong national defense. The role for the government ought to be giving us a sound currency, not a bunch or a few people in secret rooms that have monopoly control over the money supply and the interest rates. That's not in the Constitution. replace it. The Congress voted things that weren't constitutional. And we drifted because the wealth created by free markets and free people was so overwhelming that we lived off our wealth for so long, and the world trusted us. They trusted our dollars, they trusted our military power, and the momentum continued to go even after we failed at understanding what real liberty means. So what did we do? We didn't want to cut back like a family or a business has to do. The country as a whole just went on a borrowing binge. And therefore, we now are suffering from the prosperity that has accumulated with debt. So it's not real prosperity. If you're in trouble, and I say, well, the solution is go out and buy a fancy new car and you're going to feel better. Nobody does that except in Washington. They go out and they spend money and think that the country's going to feel better. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Free market economics teaches that if the government, in particular the Federal Reserve, produces bubbles and gets the economy out of whack, you have to allow corrections to occur. You have to liquidate the debt. Okay, they sort of paid attention to that a little bit. Yeah, whoa, there is too much debt. The banks have too much debt. The mortgage companies have too much debt. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac has too much debt. There's too much derivative debt. So what did they do? They took all the debt, put it in the Federal Reserve, in the Treasury, and put it on the taxpayers.
In the Fed.
Eventually, though, all debt has to be liquidated. We are not likely, matter of fact, it's virtually impossible for we as a people to pay this astronomical debt, which is growing exponentially. So unfortunately, the bad message is it's going to end badly, because the debt will be liquidated. That doesn't mean it'll be liquidated like you would liquidate your debt if you had to go through bankruptcy, file for bankruptcy, and debt would be dissipated and be liquidated. Countries don't do that. They're much more corrupt, and they counterfeit their way out of it. They print money and pay off their debts with money with shrinking value. That is essentially how we got into this mess. We could not have gotten ourselves into this mess without a central bank that had so much power and authority. The central bank, especially the chairman of the board, is more powerful than the president because he gets to print, create the reserve currency of the world, determine how much money supply there should be in the world, and what interest rate should be. That's way too much power. He is a counterfeiter, and he is a taxer, because if the Congress passes bill and they don't have the money, the Fed prints the money, your prices go up, that's a tax on it. It's the wrong thing to do, and it has to stop. Of America, the image that I like to think about, and so many of us are fighting for, is the image of America that is self-reliant, self-dependent, hard-working, believe in the work ethic, believe in the marketplace, believe in sound money, and believe in voluntary cooperation, and a tax system that allows you to keep what you earn.
Yeah! How about that?
It's my opinion that if you truly believe in liberty, and you truly believe you have the right to keep what you earn, you have to truly believe that we get rid of the IRS and the income tax. Of America has changed. We're debtors. We're the worst debtor in the history of the world. We have a currency that's destined to fail. We're indebted over our heads, and the government is bigger than ever. Our civil liberties are being undermined. We're pretending we can police the world and take care of everybody while ignoring our people at home. And our image is that of one where we are invading and bombing and threatening and using all sets of techniques overseas that undermines our liberties here. So our image is exactly opposite of what the founders wanted it to be. They wanted us to have a country where we were not intervening in the internal affairs of other nations.
Yes.
And of course, Eisenhower warned us. He said, watch out. If you're not careful, the military-industrial complex will eat our lunch, and that's what they're doing today.
That's right! That's right!
You are right!
If we are for balanced budgets, as I assume we are, and if we're for limited government, you can't pick and choose. You can't say, well, let's cut this program, let's cut this program. We can cut the food stamps for the poor, but you don't cut the food stamps for the rich. You don't cut the food stamps for the overseas partners that we have. What you have to do is you cut government back to its constitutional size.
Cut it all.